Good evening and welcome to Chesapeake Public Schools Family Empowerment Webinar presented by the Office of Family and Community Engagement, or FACE. I am Laura Lerf, one of the FACE specialists. Our office, which is under the Department of Engagement, seeks to create meaningful partnerships in order to inspire, engage, and empower families, educators, and community agencies to support the initiatives of Chesapeake Public Schools. We are typically available Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. and can be reached by our main phone line at 757-482-5923 or face at cpschools.com. We're excited to offer our families a course catalog entitled Peak Parent University that outlines all of our events for the school year. You can also catch up on pre-recorded webinars, access a wealth of educational resources, and make community connections to promote your family's well-being. Please visit www.cpschools.com and search Peak Parent University. We thank you for joining us tonight for our Moving Up to Middle School webinar. We're excited to have joining us tonight panelists from various middle schools in our district. Before we begin, I want to let you know this webinar is being recorded to share on our Chesapeake Public Schools YouTube channel. Participants' cameras and the chat feature are disabled. If you have any questions, please feel free to use the Q&A feature located at the bottom of this screen. We will answer all questions by the conclusion of tonight's presentation. Please keep in mind that some questions may be specific to your child's zoned middle school. In that case, you will be advised to contact that particular school. And now we would like to introduce our panelists. First, we have Dr. LaSheila Cheeks, Assistant Principal at Deep Creek Middle School. Next, we have Mrs. Keisha Stevens, School Counseling Director at Crestwood Middle School. Ms. Taylor Messina, 6th grade teacher at Indian River Middle School. And Ms. Liz Formica, teacher and athletic director at Great Bridge Middle School. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for being here tonight. At this time, I would like to turn the program over to Dr. Cheeks to kick off our presentation.
Hello, guys. I am Dr. LaSheila Cheeks. I am an assistant principal in Chesapeake Public Schools, and I know this is an extremely exciting time, yet there are differing levels of possibly anxiety, whether this is a new division for you or whether this is a new state for you. There are so many reasons just to be excited and anxious at the same time. So we want to be able to present some information to you that might be extremely helpful. The administrative expectations that we have, I'll be sharing with you, but there's so much information. One of the things that happens when your student moves up to the middle school level in Chesapeake, very often the administrative office is the front office, but your grade level assistant principals are actually on the hallways. And so we're able to have more of a hands-on presentation or hands-on visibility right there. We're in the cafeteria with your students, and it's a really cool process that we can step out and students step in and say hi, and we really try to work from a team perspective. We have behavior assemblies where there's going to be so much information that you are going to receive that your students will receive. So if there are questions that you have, you may have to come back to a video, or you may have to go back to the student conduct book. There's summer fusion that we often have where more information is there. Then we have the open houses. So there are lots of different ways to get good information. And it's okay if you have to ask more than one time. We'd rather you ask than to assume. The contact information or the protocol for communication, we ask that you try to work things out at the building level first. And that is getting in touch with teachers, with counselors, and you're going to get some great information this evening about what our school counselors are offering and the services that they offer at the middle school level. And then if that can't be resolved there, then we go into administration, and then we may move outside of the building. But one of the things we try to do is to resolve issues regarding our protocol for communication. We try to solve it at the most base level, and then we'll move up from there. Next slide. Middle school works on a team and builder's mindset. And what that means is it's almost like a construction site. You're on that team. Sometimes grandparents are on that team. There's counselors on that team, other administrators in the building, teachers. And we want to look at it because all of us have a different perspective of the same person. There are behaviors that present themselves in the building that may not be presented at home. There are behaviors that may present themselves in the cafeteria. And so what we do is we try to get a 360 perspective on each child, and that does take a team. When we talk about the MTSS, or the multi-tiered system of support, that's a lens for Chesapeake, and it's definitely a lens for the middle school, because what we're looking at, everything that happens, can we look at the academics of it? We look at the attendance, we look at the actual behaviors. Everything that happens, which category does this issue resolving this regarding this particular student, where does it fit? And if we see what area it fits in, whether it's academic, whether it's attendance, or whether it's behavior, just imagine going from 1 to 4 children in your home to now 250 children to 500. That's a huge number. And what's happening is every child has a different persona. Every child has different likes and dislikes, the space that they need to grow. So when you think of it at that level, there's a lot going on regarding behaviors, attendance, and then the academics. And that's where that protocol for communication is going to be extremely important, because there's so many moving parts at one time. Regarding each one of those different areas, we operate also with the lens of PBIS, or our positive behavioral interventions and supports. And we look at the different levels of needs and the different levels of supports that each one of our students are needing at the middle school level. We have a school-wide matrix. That matrix pretty much talks about responsibility, respect, and safety. And then we apply that to a grade level. Then we apply those expectations to the classroom. And then sometimes it's specific to a science classroom, an English classroom, and yes, students are now going to be moving around the building. But back to PBIS, we also have corrections and celebration. So it's not all about discipline when it comes to administrators. We have a good time. We celebrate birthdays, birthday bags. We do lots of things with students. Also, we try to work with restorative practices, and that means if a student misbehaves in the cafeteria, maybe something will happen regarding the cafeteria. And so whatever the consequence is, we want it to fit what violation that actually took place. And that's what we call restorative practices. There's a lot more responsibility with students at the middle school level, but there's also more freedoms and an expansion of relationships and actually applying their social skills to expand their social circles. The increased responsibility, there's the schedule changes. And so students are not necessarily moving just for resources, maybe going to health and physical education or to another elective. In the middle school level, we actually have the core classes, math, science, English, history, or social studies, but we also have a Core Plus class. And the Core Plus, what that class does, it allows students the opportunity to maybe catch up on work, to work on SEL, or our social emotional learning skill set. Sometimes students may need a little bit more support with math, and teachers will rotate. So during that time of day, a student may catch up on math homework or get some one-on-one support, depending on what the student's needs are. Chesapeake is starting to move toward block scheduling. And let me correct that. Some schools have made the decision to move into block scheduling. And what that means, they may be in a math class for 90 minutes instead of 45 minutes on that traditional schedule. So students are going to be moving around the building for each one of those content areas, which means there's a responsibility with how do you engage in the hallway? How do you go from one class to the other? We have team concepts in the middle school. So a student will have math, science, English, history. They will have 4 teachers, and there will be a group of students to all have the same 4 teachers, but they will move around to their different classes. They may not have all of their classes together. Some might. And that's the team concept. And those teachers can get together. They have a greater idea of what's happening. So if LaSheila walks in and she's celebrated because she won an AAU tournament that weekend, then everybody gets to celebrate that student. There's a behavior matrix that I spoke about earlier that goes with each one. And sometimes a team may have a slightly different behavior expectation because students actually have the input on what that's going to look like. The binder organization, whatever teachers are needing for each one of their classes, that's a part of that responsibility. Locker breaks. Students will not be going to locker at every time there's a class break, and they've built that into, the teams have built that into the schedules and students moving around. So some of you may have already worked with combination locks, some of you may not, but they will have to do that on some of their breaks. Cafeteria safety, there will be a lot more students in the cafeteria. So some schools may have 200 to 300 students in the cafeteria at one time, or they may stagger their schedules. Students have to make sure they're doing their part regarding behavior with such a large crowd of people. Being prepared and working for your classes, that's a part of the responsibility too. Parents, I do want to make sure I bring this up, and that's the issue of social media. And you'll hear more about this at your individual school, but social media and a student's digital footprints or internet safety is a big concern of ours. So we ask that maybe you continue to speak with your child about practicing internet safety and social media etiquette. The increased freedoms. I know this is a part y'all want to hear about, but the increased freedoms, there's increased choices of friend groups, and students need the space to be able to say, I think I value this behavior. So they're going to be changing friend groups, and respecting that process is going to be extremely important. There's also the awareness of, wait, I'm an auditory learner, or I really like taking notes with colors in my notebook, and being able to discover more and more about self and having the freedom to move around within the boundaries of school rules. How do you contact your teachers? Email is a great way to contact teachers. Some teachers share their phone numbers, and then you can text teachers. We do ask that, you stay within that after work hours and be very careful that we respect your family time and the teacher's evening hours. But there's that team mindset. I want to go back to that, the team mindset of working together. And sometimes a student may have some concerns in one content area, but not another content area. And you, as well as the teacher, and even sometimes administration, can actually request a meeting or parent-teacher conference. And it doesn't mean everything is not good. That just means we may have hit a rough spot in that concept of building. We may have hit a rough spot, so we want to make sure that it doesn't impact a child negatively later down the road. Please know that administration, we are not all about just suspending kids and getting them in trouble. Administration really is here to help keep the big picture in front so we can be able to move in a fashion that we don't get bogged down in any one particular area. So administrators are here. We love what we do. And I'm so glad that you actually joined in to this evening and listening to some ideas that you want to start thinking about and taking notes on. for questions later. Thank you. I'm LaSheila Cheeks, and I am an assistant principal in Chesapeake Public Schools.
Thank you so much, Dr. Cheeks. And again, please feel free to ask questions of any of our panelists as we continue with our program. Next, we have Mrs. Keisha Stevens, who is the Director of School Counseling at Crestwood Middle School.
Hi, I'm Keisha Stevens. I am a product of Chesapeake Public Schools, and I'm actually a product of Crestwood Middle, where I am the school counseling director right now. So I get the opportunity to tell you a little bit about what does a school counselor do at the middle school level. So all school counselors work with their students on academic, social emotional skills, and post-secondary options. So we're really looking at who are you going to become, what are your goals, and we're helping shape that for you. Some different ways that we do this is we do individual academic planning, goal setting. We'll do classroom lessons. We do short-term counseling for students. We do have requests to meet with students. And sometimes if that goes on for long-term, we do refer out. So we will give referrals to outside sources when we need our students to have that support. We collaborate with families, teachers, administrators, and the community. Our number one goal as school counselors is always students first and their success. So their success is our success, and we advocate for all of our students. One thing that we also encourage is them to advocate for themselves as well. And we all do this under looking at the data. So we look at our students, look at individual needs as well as the whole school's needs to provide services to all of our students. In middle school, you're going to start developing new friendships. Dr. Cheeks did touch on this as well, but you're learning who you are and who you want in your circle. So sometimes when you're in elementary school, your best friend is the person who sits right next to you, or the person who wants to sit on the swings with you. In middle school, you're really starting to learn who are you, who do you want in your circle, and you really need to think about what kind of energy do you want to bring to your life. If you invite negative energy, you're going to get negative energy. So really look for the people who bring that positivity, make you feel good about yourself. It's okay to not be friends with everybody, but you definitely want to be able to work together so we can make this school environment something that's cohesive and we can all work together. And the last thing I do have to say, and I can't reiterate this enough, is get involved. The best friends you're going to find in middle school are going to be the ones that have the same goals and interests that you do as well. Advocating for yourself is very important, and that's something that you really can start in middle school. That begins on day one. So that first week of school, our teachers are really trying to get to know you. So use that opportunity to share with them, who are you? What are your preferences? How do you like to learn? Do you want to sit near the front of the class because you know you're going to get distracted in the back? Really lean on your teachers and identify at least one adult that you know you can go to when you need that support in the building. This is also your time where you can identify your own strengths and interests. This helps you be able to reflect on your challenges. And then the biggest thing I hear is ask questions. It's not a dumb question. There are no dumb questions. You definitely want to ask, because if you don't ask, I'm sure there's somebody else in that classroom that has the same question you do, and it may never get heard if you don't ask. And then just remember, you're not alone. So all of the faculty and staff are there for you to support you and want to see you succeed. That is always going to be our number one goal in middle school. I just wanted to share with you all the grading scale. Some of you, as I said, to get involved may be interested in athletics. So do be aware that you're going to be looking at that GPA now. So some people are not aware of our grading scales. So when you see a minus, it's not actually a 4.0, it's a 3.7. So sometimes when you try to hand calculate it, you might get the wrong numbers, but that's why the school counselors and the athletic directors and the coaches, they have a form that actually tells them everybody's GPA if they qualify. So really lean on your coach, lean on the athletic director to see if you qualify and what you need to do to qualify. And your school counselor can work on you on setting those goals as well. But you need that 2.0 GPA in order to participate in middle school athletics. And then attendance. Attendance is very important when you're in middle school. Some of the things that you'll notice is like some tips for attending school. Middle school, we really want you to try to start scheduling those doctor's visits outside of school hours. I know sometimes it is hard to not do that, but the more you can do that, the better. Planning your family trips and vacations during school breaks. Lay clothes out the night before. Establish a good morning routine. So I usually tell my students to lay the clothes out the night before, having an alarm set. Not only the morning routine, but your evening routine, making sure you're shutting down your electronics earlier, so that you can really get that good unwind time and rest for the next day. And then parents can also set up their parent view account so you can go ahead and submit absentee notes. You can check grades and stay up to date on your students' attendance. It's important for you to submit all notes for your student. You have 4 days from when your student returns to turn in those notes. And then when it comes to our truancy, it's the unexcused absences that start to really add up. So you want to make sure that you are turning in those notes so you don't hit those truancy numbers. And then there's just a couple of things about why attendance does matter, especially if you are one of those schools that is moving to the block scheduling and you miss one day, you're missing a lot of information in that 90 minutes. But still in our schools that are staying with the 45 minutes per class, it is a lot of information, new information, and students do start to fall behind the more they miss school. It's much faster paced at the middle school level with the different classes. So it is important that you're coming to school, making up assignments, and getting those notes in. By ninth grade, good attendance can predict graduation rates, and even better than eighth grade test scores can. So that shows you that attending, being there for the instruction is very important. And then good attendance offers opportunities to learn, build relationships, and access important resources and support. So those students that are continuously wanting to get involved or they aren't having that connection, coming to school is where you can gain those connections.
All right. Thank you so much, Mrs. Stevens. And now at this time, we are turning the program over to Miss Messina, English teacher from Indian River Middle School.
Hi, everybody. So I am Miss Messina. Like she just said, I teach at Indian River Middle School. I'm going on my 10th year with Chesapeake and my 10th year at Indian River. So I'm really excited to be here tonight. So I just wanted to give you guys a couple different tips of how to be successful within the classroom. So the first thing when it comes to organization is key in middle school. Particularly my school, we pass out agendas. If your school doesn't have an agenda, I would highly suggest purchasing one. So that way students can write down all their homework, any projects coming up, tests coming up, and utilizing Canvas, our digital platform as well. A lot of teachers will post announcements on Canvas. And in those announcements, I'll post upcoming tests, upcoming quizzes, the dates of when they are, how to study, that kind of thing. So it's really, really important to have some kind of a system to keep track of everything that's going on, especially as Dr. Cheeks had discussed earlier, we rotate classes. So now we're going from elementary, where you're in one classroom with one teacher, aside from resources, to having 7 different teachers, 7 different subjects, and each teacher might teach slightly different. They might have slightly different systems. So it's really important to have something to keep track of all your assignments. Another thing that's really important is having a pencil pouch and always making sure that it's full of supplies. For English, we like to talk about different strategies to be successful readers, to be successful students. So we might do foldables, we might do highlighting, color coding, different things that just to kind of let the students know different types of ways to be successful in the classroom. And then they can kind of pick which one they feel like is the best for them. But to have those colored pencils and those scissors and those glue sticks, those pencils, pens, highlighters, everything that they need. We do usually utilize a binder system or some type of system of organization. If your school doesn't, then I would kind of talk with your student about what's going to work best for them, whether it's having folders to keep papers in so they don't lose them. One thing that we've suggested for students that tend to struggle with losing papers if they're not glued in somewhere is having a folder where one side might be labeled homework for a class and one side could be labeled completed. So their homework goes in one side. As they finish it, it goes in the completed side, and then they know that all their work is in one place. A lot of schools will use things called interactive notebooks. At Indian River, we're very big on interactive notebooks, so we usually tend to glue a lot of notes in our notebooks as well as activities. So it's one place to reference a lot of materials. So that could be another opportunity for you to utilize. Time management. So this is really, really, really key, especially because you're going to 7 different teachers, 7 different classes. Stay on top of your work. I know it can be hard. It can be difficult transitioning into middle school. It can be overwhelming. You could be really anxious, but staying on top of that work and chunking it, even if you have to, especially for projects, not procrastinating and waiting to the last minute to do certain things, that can be really, really, really helpful. Developing a good schedule, as Mrs. Stevens was talking about, coming up with that morning routine, making sure that you're on school on time so that you're not missing any classes, especially if you're moving into a block scheduling situation where you might miss 90 minutes of class. So instead of having that class every single day, you could be missing, a couple days of worth of instruction in that 90 minutes. So just making sure that you are staying on top of everything, that you're checking your student view daily. Teachers are really, really good about updating all their grades. Canvas is great because a lot of Canvas will automatically update grades as they go into Canvas. It'll automatically update into student view and parent view. So making sure that you're checking your grades daily. Sometimes when we post an upcoming assignment, it'll pop up on their student view. So this kids can kind of see, if I score this on this assignment, how will my grade be impacted? So my students are really, really into looking at that kind of thing and seeing how can they be successful to get the grades that they need. Another thing would be to set goals. Goals are a great way to make sure that you stay positive and you're successful throughout your middle school career. Take breaks. If you get frustrated on homework easily, look at a problem. If you can't solve it within 10, 15 minutes, email your teacher. We are not scary. We're not out there to get you. We really welcome questions. We welcome emails. We welcome you coming into our room and asking those questions. We want to help you. We want you to be successful, but we don't know if you're struggling on things unless you talk to us. How to study successfully. I would say the biggest thing that I tell parents at parent-teacher conferences is to have those conversations daily with your student. What did you learn? Have them reiterate back to you, what did you learn in each class? What did you do in science today? Civics, English. And if they can't do that, have them pull out their notes or their notebook and walk through it. Even if it's not studying for hours each night in that notebook, if you ask those questions and they can say it in their own words, they're still reviewing that information and it'll make it easier the next day when they get to school. Participate in class discussions, ask those questions. And if you struggle with asking questions in a class setting, a lot of times, especially for those schools moving to block scheduling, my school is moving to block scheduling, you can, our hope would be to get that lesson in and then have ample time for independent work where we can go into pull small groups, work with small groups through things, answer questions, things like that. A lot of my students that are a little more shy and don't like to ask in front of people, they'll send me an email. So once we move into independent work during class, I'll check my messages. And if they have a question, I'll see that and I'll go answer it for them. The biggest way to be successful is Parents, please, please, please talk to us. We are huge proponents of parent-teacher conferences. Please keep in contact with your child's teacher as often as possible. We will usually send home progress reports, not through the school, but we'll send it on our own. I know my team at our middle school will send progress reports every week, maybe every 2 weeks, updating parents on quizzes, tests, how they're doing. That way, if there's any missing assignments or if students have been absent, they can get that work in without having it pile up at the end of the quarter. Please check Parent View as often as you can. If there's any questions, any discrepancies, if you notice that your child's been absent and they missed a quiz or a test or have a few homework assignments, reach out to that teacher. Make sure that your student has what they need to be successful. Ask them, how do they make up these missing quizzes? How do they do these tests? Because different teachers might have different protocols for that. Don't be afraid to request those parent-teacher conferences. We welcome parents in the building. We'd love to meet you guys and kind of have that conversation with you on how to make your child successful, or even if you just want to check in, if there's nothing wrong going on and you just want to check in with us or meet us and kind of so we're all on the same page. We love those type of things. And just check your emails daily. That's a huge place for us to communicate. We do love phone calls as well, but email is usually the fastest way for us to get to you guys. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Messina. And she mentioned block scheduling. And so we actually had a question about that. So this year, our middle schools that are doing block scheduling are Oscar Smith Middle School, Hickory Middle School, and Western Branch Middle School. And starting next year, we will add Indian River Middle School and Deep Creek Middle School, who are doing block scheduling as well. So if you have more detailed questions about what that will look like at your child's middle school, the best place to reach out to would be the school. All right, and our final panelist, last but not least, is Ms. Formica, teacher and athletic director at Great Bridge Middle School.
Hi guys, yeah, I'm Miss Formica, and like they just said, I am a PE and health teacher, but I'm also the athletic director. And the big thing about going to middle school is really success comes not only in the classroom, but also outside of the classroom. So making sure that you're getting involved, whether that be joining a sports team or doing after school activity through a club that we offer, those are great ways for you guys, like we've all been saying, to get involved with your school, but also to find your place. So every single middle school has the same amount of sports. The biggest thing I get asked all the time is, what do I need to try out for a sport? And it's an easy answer. You just have to have a valid physical on file. So a valid physical can be done at any patient first, at a regular doctor's appointment. If you're looking for the form to get a physical done, they can be found at any of our middle schools. You can also find them on the Chesapeake website. But that physical has to be, for it to be valid, it has to be done from April of 2024 for this year, all the way till June of 2025. And once you get it done, so everybody who gets a physical now will be valid and good to go to try out for any sport all the way until next June. So that's really the biggest question we always get asked. And that is the first thing we check before your student tries out is, do they have a valid physical on file? If they do, they're good to go. Now, with that being said, every school has 3 seasons. So we have a fall season, a winter season, and a spring season. In the fall, we have football, we have competition cheer, softball, baseball, and then girls soccer. And those tryouts are from August all the way through the first week of school, if need be. We tried to have it in that last week before school started, just so those students weren't overwhelmed with the first week of school and tryouts. So usually it's that week right before school starts for those fall tryouts. Winter sports, we have girls and boys basketball, wrestling, and cheer goes through winter because they're also our sideline cheerleaders for the basketball season. Those tryouts will be in November. And then spring sports for us are boys soccer, boys and girls track, volleyball, and field hockey. And those tryouts start in February and they go through the first week of March. Again, I know those dates are all kind of all over the place, but your school will constantly have them on the announcements. They'll have them out around the school. They'll send them out through the social media platforms that your school has. So don't worry if you didn't get all those. They come out very regularly, and your child will know right away when they're supposed to try out. All student athletes are given 3 days of tryouts. They are required to have 3 days to try out. So if you're worried that your child won't be able to make the first day of tryouts, it's okay. There's always 2 more days of tryouts as well. Now, on top of that, let's say you have a child who maybe never played a sport. Most of our schools have clubs, and those club sports are a big part of that. So those coaches want to see what types of athletes they might have in the building, or maybe even let your child see, are they interested? Field hockey is a big one that a lot of kids don't know about until they get to middle school. So, for instance, there's field hockey clubs, wrestling clubs, basketball club, and every single student gets to participate in that. You don't have to try out for that. You are just on that to experience what that sport might be like. Are you really that interested in it? What's the requirements behind those sports? And then we go into the school clubs, which can vary based on the school. But for the most part, every school will have different types of clubs that your child can participate in. Anything from art club to book club, yearbook, SCA. And like I said, those all take place in the beginning of the year, usually around October, so that we can get through those first couple weeks of the beginning of the school year. And then your child will get to experience, what does your school offer for them that maybe isn't a sport, but might be something that they're extremely interested in. I know a big one at our school is Harry Potter Club. So we have tons of kids that sign up for that. It's just a way to kind of branch out outside the sports world, but also to allow for them to find their own place within our school. Like everyone has said, we are all so open to constant communication. I love getting emails just so that you guys are very informed on everything that our school is offering. Like I said, we want all the students to succeed, and success comes from great communication between the parents, but also with the students. So all of us are always open to answer any questions. We're really here for y'all, and you guys are what makes our schools as successful as they are.
Thank you so much, Ms. Formica. So this concludes our Moving Up to Middle School webinar, unless there are any last minute questions. Again, I'd like to thank all of our panelists for sharing information with us this evening. Please remember that this webinar has been recorded and will be uploaded to the Chesapeake Public Schools YouTube channel within the next week. There was a lot of great information given in this webinar, so if for some reason your child was not able to join, please remember that you can play it for them from the Chesapeake Public Schools YouTube page. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. And remember, families and communities work better together. Have a good evening, everyone.